Don't lie, Mike. You just want to come to an adult show. Oh, I know. That's actually something I've been talking to somebody else about. So we'll talk about that when I get home. Nice. See, this is why you need to start another company,
I have a question. I just thought
an
about it.
adult branded company.
Is this like when the Neanderthals ran into the Homo sapiens, bred something?
See, there you go.
Yeah, they made a human that made Twitter. I'm not saying which, whether it's HBO, but Neanderthal or whatever. Is that, is that an accurate? Would you call it an accurate metaphor? I love metaphors. Sorry, all of the Homo sapiens are tweeting right now, so they're not answering. They're totally ignoring me. That's how far we've all come. We can't communicate if we're not tweeting.
All right, that's it. I'm out of here. I've already quit twice today. No, technically, if you're live tweeting here, I should be up there. What? That's right. Get up there. Be proud. Lauren, Michael's trying to hide in the background again. He won't get up there. Only I'm allowed to hide in the back. There's a reason they don't put my ass up there. I'm not pretty. What's that, Mike? Oops.
In the general area behind our head. Lauren has, she's tweeting out stuff the whole thing. Oh my God, they're fucking.
So, we got a show?
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, it should be.
Ask him to read the overlay from left to right of who's, so I can get, I think everybody's in the right chair. We're still missing one, but what's it say on your overlay? Mike?
Hold on. I do not. Well, no, the autofocus kicked up and then toned back out because somebody walked in front of the camera. So once we actually start, everybody will be seated and nobody should be walking in front of the shot.
And all panelists must put their cell phones away. Just a simple courtesy.
But first, a selfie.
Angie, what was the order on the overlay?
Well, once the audio gets started, then yeah, I won't be able to hear you. But you can always text me. That's fine. Yes. Yes. That's fine. No, you're good.
10 minutes, Callie? No. Oh, really? Yeah, we're fine. We got plenty of time. This is.
No, Jack, you should go.
I'm gonna go like when I have a 3-minute.
Oh, yeah, do we have a break in this? Is there an intermission? A bathroom break, Colin, Angie, where are you?
Joe,
Yes.
so for the run of the show, you're gonna have to go out of there because your head is the focus of the main coverage.
If anything happens, I have to jump right
No,
back
but you
in.
can go, yeah, but rather than have you hear the entire time, just move your chair over. Or, yeah, that'd work.
It's just if I
Colin,
to
do we
make
have
an
a
adjustment,
break
I'll be
in the
back
middle
in
of
the
this, or
shot.
is this a straight hour?
What's that?
Do we have, let me speak a little bit louder. Do we have a break in the middle of this,
No.
or is it a straight hour? Can you hold it? It's a straight hour.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a
Yes.
bathroom near here.
You have 12 minutes. 12 minutes, okay, I'm going at 8.
Unless there's.
Jay, is that better?
Much.
Yeah, if you need to jump in, you can just hop on. I'm not sure, but as it was, we were getting a whole lot of Joe's back of his head.
I was kind of afraid of that.
So that water thing is very hard to start those little pictures. And then actually turn it off.
Yeah, neither have I. It's a Z1000. Yeah, it's like a hybrid. Actually, picked up reason as a C
Yes. What does it say? Yes, we will be playing it live here, but I think the reason you have a copy is to play it in the stream if possible. Yep. That is the plan. But it'll also be recorded in the backup shot too, because that's why I had to move, is because I was in the recorded shot.
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't even check the program, so I didn't.
We're planning our poses.
I just told Jeff, we gotta be there.
So you really?
Yeah. Jeff edits all my stuff, and he's my second camera. Yeah. Almost half the food you see is shot by him. Soon all of it.
I can pull back if need be.
I'll let you do it. I'll take over. She was here. Kelly?
Yeah, and I would also.
A little bit more.
Pretty awesome.
Oh, you want me to go the other way? So, okay. Okay.
Is that what they see on my brows?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Ah, wait a minute. How is that not working? Now?
How about now? Is that good? Now.
Yep. Can do. More? So towards Kelly or away from Kelly? I can. You need me to tilt?
Yeah. Which is about, I think we're.
Excellent.
Reject funds can't be moved. Yeah, I can't. It's a dollar. The problem is it's a box that has boxes in it too. I just kept throwing boxes.
And then, like I said, when we start, if you just want to drop me text of what you need done. Sure. Oops. Sorry.
Too long of that. Just look for that.
Trying to move the tripod and not kill our shot completely. Holland. We're good. The shot will not be moving.
Oh, excellent.
Now what? You're making me nervous, Mike.
Now you have to know who's in the room to come in, really? Your pimpin' celebrity? How about we're just gonna be interesting? How's that? You've never heard of any of us, but we're gonna be fascinating.
We have moves. See, you perked up. It's like, sweet. Exactly.
Yep.
We're showing movies.
Okay. Oh, we just wanted to make sure that we had it lined up like we have everybody in the right seating position compared to what your overlay says. Okay, good. Works for me.
Anticipation is gonna kill me.
I know, it's really good.
It's not PR. Social media publicity.
I haven't seen you in 1,000 years.
How about anyone else?
No, no. Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, okay, I was like, I was pretty sure I remember. Quarter block. Yeah, we just rolled it over on my nose, but
Yeah, yeah. And then we just moved up to a smaller building.
Charlie Montana was Charlie Montana.
Definitely. I miss you. All toys, all the time.
What's going on?
My desk is filled with.
Nice. Happy New Year.
Okay, give me a hug. I believe a pretty girl hugs a kid.
You sitting in on this?
Yes.
Nice.
Like their options.
For my next song.
Well, actually, that's great. This one, I mean, it's a great panel of women in porn, but the topic is it's porn on HBO. Yeah.
Big secret. That's your job.
All right. Let's PR.
Okay. Steve.
Oh, and then I have to say something. Say hey. Okay. You're, yeah. I agree with something, but nobody was getting that. Like, hey guys. Yeah. Okay.
Well, like I said, I think it'll be fine once everybody settles down. We're going with it. I'm making this executive decision. We can turn the OCD off for at least an hour.
Okay, Kelly. Tell Joe when you're ready and we'll fire up the stream and.
Yeah, you guys gonna, who's starting this game? You starting it or am I starting?
We're good to go, Mike.
Countdown? I am. Let's get the party started.
I'll count you down. I'll go 5, 4, 3, 2. Give it a beat and go.
Was that a rehearsal or was that a real countdown?
Rehearsal is good.
Oh
I
boy.
can see Keystone Cops coming up right about
Did you know practice makes,
More practice.
practice makes.
All right, tell me when. Count me
Permanent,
down,
you can
but
practice
please
it
roll.
over and over and over.
We queued up on our clip.
Rolling.
Okay, and camera's going. Everybody good? Joe, good?
Yep.
Are we on the interwebs?
Mike, are we on the interwebs?
We are on the interwebs.
And 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly Holland. I'm the Managing Director of Penthouse, and I have the great honor today to host a panel. It's part of an ongoing Mind Browse series called Women in Porn Shattering the Myth, and it's sponsored and brought to you by .com, the preeminent women's porn site. I never know how to gracefully say I don't think it really translates, so let me spell that, SSSH.com. That's Angie Roundtree's great site, and she brings amazing content to the web and gives us a forum to have a great dialogue. Listen, if you want to participate in this dialogue, if you're not in the room, and you want to participate, you can join us at #SexTalkTuesday and be involved. You can jump up and down, you can yell, you can agree, you can disagree at #SexTalkTuesday. Now you might be saying to yourself, Kelly, are you crazy? It's Wednesday. Yes, I am crazy, but I also do know it's Wednesday. And here's why we're coming to on a Wednesday. We are in fabulous Hollywood at the Andaz Hotel, participating with XBiz 360. Everybody in the room obviously is here and knows what that is, but if you're out in the hinterlands, XBiz is our amazing trade organization, and they do a show in Hollywood every year, and we're here and we're happy to be a part of it, and that's why we're on Wednesday, although you can join us on Sex Talk Tuesday. God, it's so confusing. Okay, I want to first give a shout out to the people manning our social media. Lauren McEwen back here with Seven Veils. Madeline, say hey.
Hey. Hey.
Yeah, that was exciting, huh? Okay, but they're going to be interpreting your questions and our responses, and they are highly literate and they type really fast, so they'll be right on top of it. I also want to introduce the panel, or I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They speak better than I could ever for who they are, but they are an illustrious group of three down here, and I'm honored to be sitting with them. You want to go first, Ms. Trin?
Hi, I'm Wicked Pictures performer, writer, director, Jessica Drake. I also created Jessica Drake's Guide to Wicked Sex. I do sex seminars pretty much all over the place, but I still have a foot firmly in being a performer as well. And I'm honored to be here.
I'm Jackie St. James, and I work for New Sensations. I'm a writer-director, primarily doing scripted material, feature-driven content, and quite a few vignettes in a wide range of categories, from romance to faux-cest.
Faux-cest? Yeah, I know, I just came over, like, tried that the other day. I'm Kelly Shikari. I do a little of everything. I'm currently a publicist. I'll be doing the PR panel tomorrow. I am the first plus-size girl in Penthouse.
Yay! We got major press on that, lots of support, and I was so proud to be part of that.
I am a co-collaborator with Jessica on the first plus-size sex ed movie, which is Got to Be Possessed plus size. I don't know if Jackie and I could have done this yet, but we will. It'll happen. You might be in the bathroom later. Yeah, so I do a little of everything.
And you're tweeting questions to Kelly. I'm Kelly H. She's Kelly S. So if you really want a specific answer, be sure to ask. Before I tell you what this panel's about, we're going to roll a little movie, which I think is so much fun. It's going to be a great panel because we have show and tell to do. So let's roll our 4-minute clip. This panel is called It's Porn, Not HBO. The clip we're about to show you is a little different. Here we go.
My agent just called. I got offered the coolest part. It's not a ton of dialogue, but it's gonna be so great for me. I know it. What is it? So basically, my character's in this ratty apartment, and this guy I'm seeing comes in, and he's like, "Get down on all fours." I'm like, okay. And I start crawling, and he follows me into the bedroom, and then he flips up the back of my skirt and starts eating my ass.
So it's this huge bonfire orgy, but we're all naked with these pitch black eyes, and we're just going at it like animals. They're like a lot of people in the scene, but because I'm doing my girl from behind, you can totally see my entire face.
So I'm second in the midget guy's dick when his brother comes in, and he watches for a second, but then he's like, hurry up or whatever, and then he sends in 4 naked women to do
Yeah, it's just a few lines, but you get to have sex with a lead. It's in the 1930s though, so they want to know if you're hoo-ha shaved in case they can get you a merkin. A wig for your vagina.
Exact same time we all start climaxing, we're just what's wrong? What is that?
He starts jerking off over my chest, and I'm like, no, not my dress, not on my dress. So I pull down the top of my vest, and he just shoots it all over my tits.
Where's Hot Band Part number 1?
It's tape, actually.
Whatever, just go to the bed and tear up the robe.
Hold on. Kelly, sweetheart, you just gotta roll in porn. You're doing porn? Porn.
Dude, it's fucking porn.
What? No, it's HBO.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
Action.
It's not porn.
It's HBO.
With 108 Emmy nominations, it's not porn, it's HBO.
All right. I ran across that about 6 months ago on YouTube, if you want to take another look at it. And it was a jumping off point for things that I've been contemplating for a long time, but basically our conversation is going to be, you know, we never moved toward mainstream. We have been who we are. Sometimes we do big budget films and that puts us over in that space. But they have slowly, and the culture has slowly moved mainstream television to us. As if on cue last night, it was 11 o'clock at night, I was stressing out about doing this panel today, so I thought, I'll turn on the TV and I'll just watch it, just so I can forget about my stress. And I turned on HBO, and their new series, Billion, premiered last Sunday, and I saw the first episode on VOD, and the first shot of the first episode of a major series was Paul Giamatti, hogtied on the ground in his boxers, with a dominatrix standing over him. She had her, you know, boots with her spike heels. They looked exactly like Jessica's boots. She was smoking a cigarette. She leaned down, put her cigarette out on his nipple, and then said, "Oh my God, that must really hurt. Let me cool it off," and proceeded to urinate on him. That's the first shot of an HBO show. So what we're talking about right now is HBO, Cinemax, Stars, Showtime. We're talking about shows and referenced in that parody, Game of Thrones, obviously, Shameless on Showtime. Stars, I think, has the most explicit premium cable programming with shows like Outlander and Spartacus. But we will also be talking about even basic cable channels like AMC with American Horror Story. So here's the first question I want to ask is, do you feel that premium cable and its explicit programming has come into our playground? Have they rolled us over? Or is it an asset that they're there, kind of backing up and validating what we do? Or is there no comparison whatsoever? Jessica, why don't you get started?
Well, I think in some instances, it's been even better for us because I think it has, as sex has become more accepted in media in all forms, people are more comfortable with it and that's what they want to see. Fortunately, with Wicked Pictures and the majority of the movies that we do, they are very story-driven, plot-pertinent sex. So hopefully people that are watching more explicit content on television, it gives them a taste for even more of it, and they'll gravitate towards what we're doing. Ironically, it's kind of how I got my start in this business. When I first came out to LA, I was very often Bikini Girl 4 and Naked Girl on the couch for all kinds of series and shows for HBO, Cinemax, which we called Skinemax, and Showtime. But yeah, I mean, every time I turn on the TV, I'm consistently surprised. And there's also been a crossover lately. Some of those channels are having their versions of adult movies shown. They edit it, so you're not seeing ejaculation. So what fun is that? But it's a different form, but now they're integrating our content onto their channels.
Jackie?
Yeah, I mean, I have to kind of mirror what Jessica said, and then I do think it helps because the more we get sexual content on, air quotes, legitimate mainstream stations where you're seeing full frontal nudity on a male now, finally, and that kind of content, it sort of is I guess desensitizing the audiences a little bit and opening them up and having them be a little bit more receptive to sexual content. But on the other hand, I mean, I think that there's still that line of, I mean, I think that the video represents exactly what, as a pornographer, I think we face all the time, which is they have like $1 million plus an episode, so of course it's going to be beautifully shot, beautifully lit, with actors that have their SAG card, and there's a lot of money behind it, so they can sort of, I guess, lean on the legitimacy of it. But at the end of the day, it is porn, what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, we're starting to see things like, you know, Cinemax actually getting rid of their Skinemax programming because you're seeing so much nude content and softcore nude content on shows like Game of Thrones or any of the other Showtime shows. And Showtime also does a lot of like documentary miniseries. Maurice Spurlock just did one called 7 Deadly Sins, where each one is about sex. And so they're being more open to that kind of programming, but at the same time, if the character in the show is an actual porn performer or is engaging in a porn scene, they still revert back to hiring cameos from the adult industry. whether it's Sons of Anarchy, where, you know, every single porn performer on that show, was an actual porn performer. Although there was so much of it was softcore, you know, maybe just topless, you know, but they still, for some reason, as an actress, you didn't want to be cast as a porn star or a sex worker in any way. They still revert to using people from the adult industry because that's still somewhat taboo.
So perhaps the positive aspects of this are that they normalize, so sex is normalized, and you see, many times I think you see in culture, that the culture rolls over the norms, the religious norms, the legal norms, and you saw that, of course, with gay marriage, right? There were no lawmakers that were gonna boldly step forward, even though they knew it was the right thing to do, and back it. It was only when the culture overtook the politics and overtook religion, and everyone had a gay child or a gay brother or a gay friend, and they had to move with the cultural wave. So I look at this though, and I say, okay, what are the positives? You're right, it normalizes it. Perhaps it gives us legal coverage, you know, it gives us some talking points in a legal environment to say, well, how can you talk to us? If Paul Giamatti is being burned by a cigarette and if there's a portrayal of urination, or in the case of Flesh and Bone, which was on Starz, as I said, Starz is probably the most explicit of the premium cable channels. In Starz, there was the basis of the storyline was an incestuous relationship between a brother and sister, and they had sex on Starz, or a portrayal of sex. That's many times places that we might not go, even though we know it's what do they call it, family relationships on the aggregate sites. That's how they describe it. Family relationships are one of the highest selling things that are afoot in our business right now. But still, on Starz. So maybe it gives us some political cover. Maybe it gives us some legal cover. But on the downside, is it creating an evolution that will ultimately be our obsolescence? I mean, look, listen, the marketplace always forces competitors to move forward and be more of what they think is working for them. Meaning, there will always be a movement now in premium cable to be more and more and more explicit. At what point do they actually flip into our world? I don't think it's very far down the line, and then what does that mean for us? Because if they can do it, by the way, Game of Thrones episode budget, one episode, $6 million. So if Game of Thrones is spending $6 million, and we'll get to the point where perhaps there are genitals and penetration in 5 years, or 2, or whenever, what does that mean for us? That's the downside.
And you're seeing it in movies. I mean, I know, what is it, blue is the warmest color, whatever, they were actually having sex. And Nymphomaniac, and those are considered legitimate films, but it is porn, it's just, you know, much bigger budgets. I don't think we'll ever be obsolete, but I do think that there will be a trend where we move away from the story-driven and feature-driven because we are, or audiences are kind of getting satisfied with that within the television shows that are doing it now, where it is getting, I mean, and the sex scenes are very hot. And like you said, I mean, they keep evolving in that direction. The reason why a lot of people are watching story-driven porn is they want to see the payoff with the story. Well, if you get that in mainstream with a $6 million an episode budget, it's kind of hard to justify then watching an adult film that's shot for like a very, very minute fraction of that.
You know, Gloria Leonard famously said when asked, what's the difference between porn and erotica? Good lighting. That was a simple answer. All right, so Jackie's opinion is that perhaps there's not a space for story-driven, that we will just go to pure sex vignette. Guys?
Well, I think that there's gonna be a narrowing. I know it's kind of a middle-class kind of conversation, but you're gonna have like the big budget films that show as close to porn as they think currently that they can get. And on the other side of the spectrum, you've got all the gonzo, like very super amateur stuff that's on all of the sites. You know, and so like, you know, where, as far as consumers is concerned, so you've got the crowd of people who like the super amateur stuff that's available that people who are not actually in the industry make and then post on the tube sites. Then you've got the super high budget productions. And the only thing that kind of separates the high budget productions from what we do as high quality porn is just actual showing of penetration. And if that's the only difference, then I agree. I was like, when does that change? You know, like, is the penetration the actual part of porn that actually turns people on?
Yeah, I mean, it changes when we give up the fact that the vaginal opening is sacred. This seems to be the dividing line, right? We can show full frontal nudity, we can show all sorts of sexual acts, we can talk very frankly about all sorts of sexual things in premium cable. It just comes to that one instant. It's the only thing that separates the thin, you know, not so blue, the thin pink line between premium cable and us is head of penis penetrating vaginal opening, the sacred Mother of Mary moment, right? When they give that up, then we all become high budget pornographers, low budget pornographers, or we become low budget art people and they become high budget art people because they will never embrace the word.
I think it's
porn.
interesting to also like see what, like in my case, because I grew up watching Japanese porn, is a lot of Japanese porn that's, you know, produced in Japan is mosaic, so they actually don't show penetration, but it still seems to be a very valid industry in Japan. And when the government censored the actual penetration, you know, and actually mosaicing it out, they responded by turning into like bukkake. So bukkake is because of the censorship, and so there's always a consideration that the pornography industry here in the States might become actually more fetishy based. You know, if the big Hollywood budget movies are going to start showing penetration, right? Yeah.
More fetish based. Paul Giamatti.
Exactly.
On. Sorry. Maybe. Actually, we're gonna have a clip we're gonna show you in a minute that's from basic cable, from AMC, from American Horror Story, that is about as fetishy as one can imagine. I wanna ask one more question. I'll ask it of people here in this room and also people that are following us on social media. Does anybody masturbate to Game of Thrones? Does anybody masturbate? I watch a lot of premium television. I mean, I don't know. I would probably tell you it's because I'm a filmmaker, but I just watch a lot of premium television. And I will tell you the only thing I ever saw that I thought was, rose to that level because, and it didn't rise to the level because it's pretty disgusting. But we were talking about earlier, was a scene in Outlander that was a very, very prolonged gay torture rape scene, and it went on forever, and it was very explicit, and I was shocked. I mean, it was like, it was shocking, and I had to wince and look away at times. It was very prolonged. So my question, anybody out here, anybody masturbate to premium, to that really hot, sexy, premium cable content?
The scenes are too short.
Scenes are too short, so we're talking about Outlander. Oh, Colin, you masturbate when the wind blows. I'd love to get some feedback from people that are tweeting and telling us if that's true. So maybe, back in the day, and of course when you're old you could say back in the day, there was a very hard line between pornography and Cinemax/Skinemax. You never hired a porn actress. Unfortunately, the only person who would do those movies was Shannon Tweed. She was in a million of them. So they finally got sick of Shannon Tweed. They decided they had to drop that concept, and they started hiring porn actresses. But Jessica, you may remember, everybody had to wear little patches, right? The guys had to wear socks, and the girls had to wear little patches, and that was what it was. Then the next phase came, and they started buying movies from us, like New Sensations and Wicked and Penthouse and Vivid. And they would say to you, this is softcore, meaning it's not a cut down version of hardcore sex. And you would say, yeah, sure, that's it. And they never asked more than that, right? It was don't ask, don't tell. And that's a lot of what's on. There's a couple of other producers that just produce softcore specifically for that space, but the economics don't work on it. So they have slowly embraced and allowed porn to filter into their world, which I think contradicts something that I said earlier, is we don't cross over. We have crossed over because they've allowed us in. But more than that, they've watched the economics of adult dollars, of the revenue coming off of porn. And also, they followed culture, and they have to keep one-upping each other with both violence and sex. So we're talking about, if we're queued up, we were talking about, this is even now available, particularly fetish. Fetish seems to be a place where mainstream broadcasters are more comfortable sitting for some reason than just sensual sex between adults. So even on basic cable, when kids can walk in and go to AMC at any time, or AMC VOD, and watch programming, we're going to show you a clip that was most recently on American Horror Story. We're queued up for that. That's a very fetish-driven clip.
We're gonna get you out of here, we promise.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying get me out of her. He's still inside of her. You're gonna find male potency drugs in his system, probably a lot. You won't be able to detach them here, so you're gonna have to take him to the corpse. God bless.
When you scream, when he likes.
What can you tell me?
And you didn't feel like going out tonight.
It's not the getting ready. It's the cleanup.
Call housekeeping.
I was gonna say a penthouse. If I took that into my lawyer and said, hey, look at our latest movie. Who's got a job for me now? Yeah.
I love that even through that last, they were still covering up their nipples.
Yeah.
They still wore pasties. Right. Despite all that.
Basic cable. Premium, pasties would have been off. I think it brings up another question, is a lot of the sexuality that's playing in both premium cable and basic cable is rooted in violence, extreme violence at times, sexualized violence. Look, I support First Amendment rights at all levels, but do we have a concern? I don't know, do we? I don't know, I don't have an opinion, right? I haven't formed an opinion on this. It's been plaguing me for a year about what I think about all this, and I haven't formed an opinion.
I think it's interesting because porn gets blamed so often, especially these days, because of the accessibility of porn by younger men and women in terms of how they have sex. You know, there's rougher sex, they use porn as sex ed, like that kind of stuff. But then you see this, and that's more accessible than any tube site because you've got to, go online and look for that. This is on regular television, and so I think that the conversation should start including mainstream television about how that's affecting how people are perceiving what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in sex.
I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about that, like, violence has always been pretty much acceptable. I mean, honestly, on television, like, I can remember when Dirty Dancing came out, that's how old I am, that my mother would not let me see it because she thought it was so horrifically sexual. But I could see any myriad of films with people's heads blowing off and it was never an issue. And I think because as a culture we are so okay with violence that because we're not okay with sex, it's a natural progression to see that, okay, we can depict sex as long as it's violent, because blood and guts and stabbing somebody in the back is completely okay, but showing a nipple, God forbid, I mean, that's just horrific.
But I also think that it's just them capitalizing on more of sensationalism. So you get really violent and you show a lot of sex and you really push the envelope as well. Like, and much like Jackie, I saw Full Metal Jacket, but I had to hide to see Purple Rain. You know, like I had to be really sneaky. And so I think that is really interesting to think about. And what so many people don't realize is that, like you were saying earlier, showing it to your lawyer, like most people don't even understand what that means. As a director, as a producer, I have a list of rules that I have to follow. I can't have a bottle of vodka on a bar behind my performers if they're having sex. Like, they can't appear to be impaired. There's so many, like, you can't have blood in a sex scene. You can't have a shootout and then the people that survive make the sweet love afterwards. You can't do that. We have so many limits on us, and that is the way that mainstream, of course, with their budgets, first and foremost, but also with the lack of rules that they have. They can just show whatever they want to show.
Because we have, give me 1 second, because we have 10 channels around the world, and many of our channels are on satellites, they're feeding multiple territories, including countries like Turkey, for example. We are bound by a lot of not only our own internal guidelines, not only what we perceive DirecTV and Dish will deal with, but also what Europeans will deal with. And frankly, much to their credit, the Europeans are much more sensitive in their broadcast space about violence toward women. So as Jessica was saying, you can never allude to the fact that someone was on a drug or someone had a drink or someone was drunk, because then it was non-consensual sex. You can't, in broadcast television in Europe, you can't verbally abuse a woman. You can call her, you may be able to say, oh, you're hot, you filthy little whore, but you better not say you fucking filthy little whore, because that's not a term of endearment, that's a term of abuse. And you're right, no blood, no weapons, no sense of coercion whatsoever. You know, and I applaud the Europeans for that position. They're actually stronger on that than we are. However, all of that programming is showing in Europe as well. That's all licensed out to Europe, and I don't know how they also deal with what is obviously a disconnect and a hypocritical position in that. Vicki, give me 1 second. I just want to hand this back to Lauren. Lauren was telling me while we were watching that AMC clip that we got some interesting responses on Twitter. What's up?
Okay, one Twitter user, Dom Signs, said to the question of does anybody masturbate to premium channels? One answer was sexy yes, masturbation, fodder for the imagination maybe, but while watching, no. And we definitely got a bunch of reactions on American Horror Story and saying, like, you go on Google Plus and every time an episode comes out, it's just filled with all the fetish content and how people are really drawn to the fetish content.
Doesn't anybody fuck anymore?
Well, and therein lies the weird question that we're posing, is you see much less romantic, sensual sex, and I'm not saying this because I'm a woman, oh, sweet, dancing through a field of daffodils. I'm just saying, you see a lot of much less interpersonal, quote unquote, normalized relationships. Everybody gets nervous about that in mainstream television. Oh God, no, because that's sex and we can't show it. But they're okay to get into a lot of fetish because somehow the control involved in that and the violence associated or paralleling that seems to push them more into, this is an action sequence, not a sex sequence, I guess. I don't know. I'm still trying to sort it out. Vicki, what up? Come here.
No, I was just going to say that if I have 1/20th of that on any of my websites, please be billing Visa would shut me down.
Of course, and that's actually another conversation that we've had, is, you know, the credit card processors and companies have no problem with any of this when you're picking it up on Netflix and you're putting down your whatever $9.99 a month. But that's where this business is under attack and is somewhat vulnerable. So I look at that and I say, well, hold on. Should we have a public campaign about this? And I'm so happy whoever did It's Not Porn, It's HBO, I think it was a group from Funny or Die that did it. I applaud them, and I was so happy when I saw it a few months ago, is maybe the public conversation that we have when we're about, you know, Weinstein and, you know, his zealotry. Maybe the conversation we need to be having is to talk about this, and that's why we wanted to talk about it in this panel. This is so blatant, so obvious, and such a weird Kafkaesque disconnect that nobody sees the dilemma here, or the contradiction, or the hypocrisy. So maybe that's what this provides for us, is talking points to say, wait a minute. And look, ultimately, as people start to, as mainstream broadcasters start to move more and more and more toward wanting that sensational headline of actual sex, it's gonna be interesting to see what that does to Weinstein and Company, exchanges of body fluids. So,
Yeah,
Kelly.
and 2257s and all that kind of
yeah, and
paperwork as well.
2257, absolutely.
But it's almost as if, in order to have acceptable, air quote, acceptable sex in mainstream television, the person has to have some sort of mental disorder or be deranged in some way. Like, they can't have happy sex, and even if it's not an American Horror Story type thing, it's just like a soap opera type, like melodrama, it has to be because, they only show like the sex scenes if they're cheating on each other, on their partners, or something that's negative, so it's always still kind of perceived as a negative thing. Because for some reason, love is taboo, it's weird.
And it is very, but it is very shame-based. A great example of that is the movie Trainwreck, where her character was redeemed from a life of promiscuity. I think that's a really notable
Or sisters,
as well.
or sisters from Tina Fey, it's the use of sex in mainstream Hollywood, it's only acceptable if it's funny, like it's making fun of somebody, or something horrible is happening. And you just can't have regular happy sex, it's weird.
How many times has Hugh Grant played that part?
Exactly.
Being the bad boy again and again, and he's saved by the pure, wholesome girl. Yeah.
Now, not to beat up on the premium cable channels too much, is there value? And we talked about it earlier, and then we lost it in the pursuit of violent, deranged sex as the only sex that gets portrayed. Where's the value sit? We started to talk about it, that it normalizes, it educates / normalizes, and I would point to Transparent on Amazon, which was a big Emmy winner, big Golden Globes winner in its second season now, which takes a really unflinching, it's not that unflinching, but somewhat unflinching look at transgender girls, which took a great look. Kelly and I were talking about this earlier. Took a great look at the stereotypes on body image and sort of normalized girls with less than sports swimsuit bodies walking around with their clothes off. And look at the chaos that created. I mean, Lena Dunham was in 1,000 interviews. How dare you be a bigger girl and be naked on camera on HBO? You're freaking me out. So, are there good things? Are they helping to move the story that we've been telling for a very long time, which is it's okay, as Larry says, relax, it's just sex. Do we applaud them as well for moving that story forward?
I applaud them, but I do think that they take a lot of credit that the adult industry deserves. Where, I think Lena Dunham got a lot of credit for doing this groundbreaking series, but then they shun and scoff at the porn industry. So it's definitely a double standard. I mean, I do think it's good, mirroring what Jessica and I said earlier, which is that I do think that anytime we have a progressive sex show on a mainstream channel, it's a good thing. But what is the solution in terms of how porn movies are perceived?
Sometimes I don't think there's a solution. I think we just sit and we allow culture to take, when you're a little bit older, you have the advantage of time, and you get to see that really the evolution of culture and thinking solves many problems, against all odds. And we've seen it certainly since the Cultural Revolution, with everything from, I don't know if we could say that, that racism seems to be actually in worse shape, our racial relations seem to be in worse shape than they ever were. But, of course, I didn't live in the 50s, so I don't know that, I have to think about it. But I do believe, because I'm hopeful and optimistic, that we evolve, and that the cultural evolution that comes along with that is a positive one. So maybe that's how we solve
And what
those
you said
issues.
about gay marriage, I mean, that's an excellent point. Like, I think that really, that's totally resonated with me, where, there has been a shift, obviously, with the gay marriage thing. So potentially that's something that, all of us can look forward to hopefully one day.
If it makes people talk, I mean, I think that's the most important thing, is in order for us to share our information or come together at all, there has to be a discussion, there has to be more knowledge moving forward.
Kelly, any closing thoughts or comments?
Oh God, I have to do closing thoughts.
Well, no, you don't have to.
No, I
If you
think
have one,
it's, as a plus size performer and plus size entertainer, I'd like to see better portrayals for plus size in mainstream, as well as an adult. I mean, right now, most plus size adult is fetish based. Adam and Eve I just saw something that they just released that actually was really awesome, plus size pinup girls, but in mainstream, we're still the comedic aspect, even on girls, it's like, how dare big women actually have, and Lena Dunham is not a big girl, by any, she's just kind of mainstream size. But mainstream, like in the public, not mainstream in Hollywood. And I think that it would be nice to see better portrayals for that, but we're also starting to see that, so I don't know, I mean, on one hand, I'm happy that we're starting to make headway into more positive, and more accepting of not only of size, but also for age. But I think there's still a long way to go.
No, you'll know we've gotten to that day when there is a plus size model who's not referred, and her description is not prefaced with plus size.
Right. Well, and we're starting to see.
She's just a model, and she's hot and she's sexy.
Well, and the problem is we're starting to see this weird, kind of chasm where you've got the really slender Victoria's Secret models, and then you've got the supersized girls, who are both saying that the girls who are kind of mainstream size of I don't know, size 10 to 14, oh, you're not big enough to be considered plus size, right? You're getting that from one side, and one side, and the other side in the fashion industry, you're still being told that you are. Yeah, so.
I guess kind of one of the takeaways, and then Jackie can talk about just closing thoughts on this. One of the takeaways, and it has a lot to do with something Kelly and I were talking about earlier, is the power of media, both ours and theirs, if there is an our and theirs, or maybe it's just ours, all collectively, mainstream and adult. The power of media to pull culture along, or to at least be a voice for cultural change. I was saying to Kelly that years ago, before I had anything to do with our magazine, when Penthouse was very siloed, right? So I was broadcast, doing my thing, the magazine was doing it. I went into a bookstore, when we still had bookstores, and I saw a book by Leonard Nimoy, and it was a photo book on plus-sized women. And he talked at great length about why he felt that image was sensual, why the bodies were sensual, why he loved the curves. And I thought, God, we should be doing this in the magazine. We should be the soapbox that sits at the center of the town square, having this conversation, which is, what is hot? Let's talk about it. It's not a one-size-fits-all anymore. Hot is a million things. It's a suicide girl. It's Rhonda with her tats. It's a thin American Apparel model. It's Kelly Shabari. It's a whole host of things. That's one of the great things about our culture, is the lid got pulled off of that, and hot is a very broad definition. So I called Leonard Nimoy, and I got it. Hello, Spunk. And he said, I'd love to do it. The final analysis, his wife didn't let him do it, of course. But I said, come in and shoot a layout for us. Years later, last year, I took over the magazine and we started doing something called Pop Shots, where we brought in celebrities from many different disciplines, tattoo artists, actors, musicians, and we said, we only have 2 rules. You have to stay on budget for what a normal photographer would charge, and you can't do anything illegal or misogynistic, right? Other than that, you shoot what you feel is hot about women. And that's when Kelly was in the magazine, because it was about women that were strong. And Kelly was part of that shoot. So I guess the media, and I think we should think about this in our world, in our little corner of the town, that we do have the power to bring change. We have the power to voice the best of what should be, the best that should be about sexuality, human sexuality, and the fact that norm is not a thin line, it is a huge spectrum. And maybe we need to also just remember when we go out there to produce that we do have some responsibility. We're not just in it to keep putting out more and more and more fungible shit. You know, that maybe if we, in a moment, I don't expect us to be preachers all day long, we don't have the energy, but every once in a while, maybe we actually have a thought about the implications of what we do. I don't know that HBO and Showtime and Starz are having a thought about it right now, but I think perhaps we should try to engage them in the conversation. By the way, Angie.
I actually had a question. Did you know that, or was that like 6 cents? Or...
What?
I just want to know what happens when premium TV station starts showing insertion. Where does that leave us?
Well, as I said, it could be that we become obsolete. We're just some, you know, footnote in a book on cinema history. It could be that they come to us to hire us all. By the way, a long time ago when there was a writer's strike, I got lots of mainstream writers calling me wanting to write scripts, and they would always kind of laugh. Hey, I'm on strike, you know, I got a little time, I gotta, you know, write a porn script. I said, really? Okay. Do you think you can play out a 3-act story, a beginning, a conflict, and a resolution? And sex, by the way, has to happen in the first 2 minutes, but it needs to be motivated, so it's gotta come from somewhere. Because if we're selling to hospitality, a hospitality buyer only has 2 minutes to decide if he's gonna buy or not. Do you think you could do that and have really diverse characters? No, yeah, you gotta portray 7 or 8 different locations, but really they're all staged in 2 days at 2 different locations. And you're right, Clay. We also brought one time, I don't remember I was with Penthouse or it was someone else, we brought, what were the circumstances around this? We brought a mainstream director, it was a media project, we brought a mainstream director to a set and said direct, and he was hopelessly lost. And I argue this point is never dismiss what we do. That's another topic and another panel. Don't dismiss the required talent involved in producing, even at the lowest gonzo level. And I always say to mainstream directors, do you know how to talk through a couple of actors in an anal scene? Or do you want to have the conversation with a male actor when he pulls you to the side and says, I can't have oral sex with her because her vagina smells really weird, now what do? You know, we all have our own requirements. You know, mainstream may have how to choreograph a fight scene with samurai swords. We have guys that can't keep erections and girls who forgot to douche. So I mean, but you have to know how to gracefully have those conversations without what? Without the guy losing whatever erection he kind of has, and without the girl running off into tears. So every genre requires its own specificity and its own sets of talents.
And Kelly, just a little backstory on this entire thing. I'll address all of you. We started working on this show almost a year ago to the day with the concept of what this is about. And I had the amazing journey of trying to cast this thing. And originally it was going to be 2 people, like are up there right now, from adult, and 2 from Hollywood.
Colin, do you want to be on mic so our people following us on Twitter? Colin and Angie are a couple and they are the responsibility behind all of this. And he's just talking about, we did reach out, because I've been talking about this clip for quite some time, and Colin reached out to Mainstream to come talk about it.
Yeah, so it started about probably almost a year ago, trying to cast this thing with having, you know, a couple of directors and performers from adult, and some directors and producers from like Game of Thrones. I literally went through every single person that has ever had anything to do with producing Game of Thrones, all of the shows we've been talking about, flat out, no. Anybody from management, no. I went down the entire faculty list of all female directors that teach at the University of Southern California. Radio silence, wouldn't even talk to me. So that says something. And it's that lets you know that this has been an interesting journey putting this together, and I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, about 4 years ago, when I started my line of educationals, I had just done a TV commercial for G4. They're not around anymore, but I fell in love with the crew. And the idea that I had for my line of educationals was very specific. And I also wanted completely fresh eyes, completely fresh. So I leaned on the mainstream crew that I met through G4. And something became very obvious very quickly. The cameraman was all about shooting sex. But much like a lot of people that think they can be male talent, once you get there, you can't actually do it. So the cameraman had a problem shooting the sex for my hardcore educationals. The lighting guys had a problem lighting for what I wanted for my hardcore educationals. So initially, in the first 2 volumes, I battled with a completely mainstream crew who couldn't do it, who didn't have the eyes that we have, who weren't bringing the talent that our industry has. So I think that's something that will hold them back. If it gets to the point where they do decide that they want to show insertion, they're gonna need us. Some of us.
That for some people, it's one or the other, you can't do both, like you can't do mainstream and adult, and that, it's not true, but that's the thought process. So, like in my case, I didn't get into adult until the writer's strike. It was because of the writer's strike that I got into porn. So, and I know some camera crew people that have just made that switch, but then they've never gone back. You know, unless it's a cameo, or unless it's, you're not, I know, directors of photography who have moved into doing adult stuff on their own, but they've never gone back, and if they do go back to mainstream, then it's like, the B camera guy.
But you do see, in the case of Steven Soderbergh and the Girlfriend Experience with Sasha Grey, and now, guess what, new series on HBO starting in March or something. So there are some directors that get it, probably simply for exploitative reasons, and they get that the dollars are there. So what's the conclusion here? We're ghettoized. Can we conclude that? We're ghettoized, we're discriminated against, we're the victims. No, we're not. The conclusion on all of this is, I think this is something we need to talk about, and we need to talk about the hypocrisy involved, and I think that shines a light on the value of what we do, where we sit, and that we don't underestimate ourselves. Anything else, any questions before we wrap this? Yes, Angie?
Just something that Vicki had said, how do we get Visa, MasterCard to just level the plate? Because it's not fair, we have to have a dog or a cat, we want to run nothing.
I know. If your dog walks through the scene, it's like, is that an implication of bestiality? Well, I think that's press, and I think it has to be messaged constantly. I think we have to write about it, talk about it. When we have the opportunity to speak in front of mainstream groups, we have to talk about the hypocrisy and the ghettoization of pornography.
Well, I think that it's also, on the part of the mainstream, not necessarily the production companies, but on the distribution end. Whereas with us, like, we all depend on Visa and MasterCard for payment processing because we all have either membership sites or you purchase the DVD online. There's some sort of transaction that involves Visa or MasterCard. And with the production companies, and it's direct income, right, on part of adult. But with Hollywood, it's the theater companies, it's the theaters that show the films, it's the Hulu's and Netflix and all the networks, as opposed to the actual production companies themselves. So asking the question of, hey, why can I use Visa to go watch a specific movie that has these situations in it, or a Hulu subscription, or something like that, but I can't do that with adult, right? I think that's the question, as opposed to like actually asking individual production companies.
Right. I think we just have to ask at the marketplace level, across the board, just make this a topic of conversation.
So we're almost out of time, but I wanted to add one afterthought. James Franco would have come here. and done this if we would have given him $70,000 in cash.
Wow.
That was his
Well, that's
number.
James Franco.
That was his number.
Right, so Colin just said James Franco would have come here and been part of this panel if we paid him $70,000. I don't know, I don't know if I blame him for that. If he can command $70,000 for showing out Mazel Tov. You know?
Yeah, they can promote our magazine in this movie.
Although he has been, I mean, he's done some independent films that have been very edgy. He did a recreation of one of the scenes, I forget the film that he took it from, where it's a scene that was actually cut, it's a scene in a gay club. Yes, yeah, so he recreated that and it's actually available, like, I think on Netflix.
What was that name? A little louder?
Interior leather bar.
Interior leather bar, which was a really risky project for him to do, so, you know, kudos for doing that. So, everybody's waving at me, we gotta wrap it up. I wanna give a big thanks first to the panel, Kelly, Jackie, Jessica. Steve Managers back here, Lauren, and Madeline. And Angie and Colin for putting this on, continuing to put this series on. It's a great place to just talk, think, and kind of bubble up and evolve ideas as they move forward. We also have some great technical people that have been involved. Jay Allen, where's Jay? Thank you so much, Jay. And anybody else that I'm missing? No.
Joe Evans.
Joe Evans.
Streaming
Joe
to the
Evans.
interwebs.
Joe, look up.
Oh.
I missed you.
Oh.
Joe Evans. Evans? Thank you. So, thank you, everybody. You can see this streaming if you want to watch it again.
Oh, thank XBiz.
And thank XBiz, yes, XBiz, our preeminent trade organization. So thank you very much. You can see the stream free of charge at 3SSS, what? Mindbrowse. At Mindbrowse and at SSSH.com, if you want to check it out again. Thanks very much.
I know, it's rough.
One moment.